Hey, this is Julie. I'm going to show you. I'm just going to install this vinyl plank flooring. It's the Grip Strip Traffic Master, and just some quick tips on it. This is just a small room that I'm just going to convert into like a little kitchenette kind of a area for the kids upstairs. This was originally the closet, and I just took it out to make a larger opening, and then I'm either going to make this a pantry because that's the original doorway that came into this room. So I'll either block it off or turn that into a pantry. And so I'm just going to finish off the archway like this over in here. And I was going to eliminate this altogether, except we started pounding on it and it is load bearing, so that is going to stay. So I'm probably going to make a double archway right there, and then in between here I thought it'd be fun just to do some floating shelves as you walk into this little kitchen area. So anyway, here we go. So what I've done so far is just kind of decided, and you can choose how you want to lay the flooring. I wanted to lay my planks long ways like this, so the room just feels bigger when you walk in. I'm gonna have my cabinets, or I've got doors here still from the closet, and I'm gonna have my cabinets line this entire wall with the fridge probably down at that end. And the reason why I have to do it on this wall is because I have a bathroom on the other side of this room, and I can tie into its plumbing and get my hot and cold and drain. So anyway, what you want to do is start off with your first plank, and the planks are going to come and they're going to look like this. And on the opposite side is going to be that strip. And this piece we're going to want to cut off. And the reason for that, and that's going to be the back side. So this is going to go against the wall right here. And so this is what I've done here, is I've cut this back side off. And the reason for that is because this is going to go against the wall, and we want a little bit of a gap, and you can see that I've left a little gap. I've kind of made it just level with the drywall, and then when your baseboard goes on, it'll cover that gap. And I've taken all my baseboards off because this room was carpeted, and so the baseboards were, you know, standing up a little bit higher, and I want them to be flat. So I'll have a little bit of repair work with drywall. I couldn't get this baseboard off, so I kind of made a mess of that. So I'll have to, you know, mud some of these areas. And another thing that I did is you want a nice smooth surface. So I just went along with this 5-in-1 tool, which is like my favorite. And you can just scrape off like the excess drywall if there's any more bumps on that. And the other thing I had to do, and I used that sander right there, but you could probably use just about any. That one's just really aggressive, so it sanded really quick and just really nice. Is I had a pretty decent size lip here, and we don't want that because that could cause a problem with the flooring later on. And so I just sanded that and then tapered it out. You probably wouldn't feel it, except it was a pretty decent sized lip, and so, you know, we don't want to have that with the vinyl flooring because it is, you know, pretty flexible. So I'm going to show you how I cut off the back, and you just score the back and then it snaps. I just use a regular utility knife. Be sure you put in a sharp blade, and I love these utility knives. They're super easy to use. They're easy to get. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. You push this button right here. That releases the blade. And then you can flip it over and push that button again and push it back in. I cannot do that one-handed. So anyway, let's get started. Okay, so now I'm gonna cut the back, like I said before. I'm gonna cut, here's our full plank, and what I'm gonna do is cut this back piece off because this is gonna go against the wall there. And the reason why you're cutting it off is because it's going to be a little bit thinner than the actual piece itself, and so we just want to take that off so everything is nice and sturdy, and it's pretty easy to cut. Like I said, just put a new blade in, and it's just a matter of scoring. And so you just line it up, and then you just go right along that ridge. And then you just snap it back. And then I just take my blade and I just follow this, and I keep it angled so the blade just goes right in between there and it cuts it off. You can see, like, super, super easy. So then when you're actually installing them, I'm going to do this one first. You're going to hold, just and this stuff is really sticky, so you just want to get it right the first time. And we have a little bit of play with this first row. I kind of slid this out just so I can get this in because we're right against the wall. Is you're going to hold it at a 45-degree angle, and then you're going to get it super, super tight to that next one and line it up so that it's nice and straight. And then you're going to, I kind of push it in with my other hand just to get it tight against there, and then just push it hard, and then you can just lay it all the way down. And then, like I said, we can kind of play with this first row. So here, I'll do another one because I have it cut. I've got a nail sticking up right here, so we don't want to hit that. So I'm going to pull it, like I said, pull it out again, and then I line it up and hold this side up. And you want to make sure you line it up perfectly with this edge, not necessarily that edge. Because if we get this first row right, the rest should just fall in really, really easy. Then push it in and lay it down. So there's the start of our first row, and I've got a little bit of a gap there. There we go. Okay, so here we are at our first row, and I can't lay a full piece because this is too long. So what I did is just measured. You measure from this edge to the wall, and you want to leave a little bit of room. They say like 1/8 of an inch. And so here I have it marked. I drew 2 lines, and then I'm just going to use this square to square it so that I can cut it off. So you just put this right against it. And basically it's the same idea as the other when I cut the back off, but you're going to score it a couple times because we're going through that 2 times thickness. And then you just bend it. I'm going to hit it one more time. And then that will just snap off. Hopefully I measured right. And then again, put it at the 45-degree angle and make sure you line up the front, not the back. And then stick that down. I don't push it tight until I know that it's down, just in case it's not quite right. And then it's easier to move around if we need to. And there we go. And just a little tip, if this would have been, like if I would have cut it off closer down here, like 3/4 of the way, then you can use that piece on the opposite end for your start, because when we start with another piece, we can't start with a full one because then we're gonna have our seam line up exactly the same. So I can start one probably about right here and then run the row, because you don't want the seams to line up because it just doesn't look natural. Okay. So here we have more progress. I've got, looks like 4 rows so far. And I just wanted to show you another trick. I get a roll of this blue tape, and then if you have any seams that kind of like open up, like I have one right here because I cut this one a little long. It's still okay, but it's hard to get my fingers in here to push it. And so what I do, and I did it right here, is I'll take the tape and stick it really hard on one side and then pull, because there's a little bit of flex in this blue tape. And so, and then again, use my favorite tool, and you kind of wedge it. And I'll hold this side, like this side with my foot. And you see that little seam? And then, I don't know if I can do it with just one hand, but you get the idea. Like I just sit and wedge it. You can use like a baby crowbar, anything that you can get in there. I might need 2 hands, but I mean, you can see it's starting to get tighter in there. And sorry, let me just try it again. Yeah, see, now my seam is getting tighter. And then what I'll do is I'll just pull really, really tight and then stick that down. And I'll leave this tape on there for at least 24 hours, if not longer, because it seems like over time it just becomes more stable, where if you just leave it, sometimes those gaps can grow just because of expansion and contraction. And these are my extra pieces that I just lay up here because, like I said, I've cut. So if you remember, this first one's my first full row, and then I cut this side, and then I started another full, and then you see how I have like pieces just laying out. I like to open like 1 to 2 boxes and just lay a bunch of pieces out so that when you're starting to put them on, you don't get matching ones, and you can get kind of picky because, you know, there are patterns that will come up again. And so if you want that just nice staggered, or not staggered, but just, you know, the different look of all the different colors that we have in here. So I'll just lay a whole bunch out and then choose different ones to put down. And you can see my seams. So here's my first one, and then I staggered it down to here. And then here's my next seam. You don't want really, really short ones because it's just dumb. And then here's my other one. And now I can actually just go ahead and do a full one right there. See, and so then we have, by number 5, we're back to that same seam, and it's easy on the eye. In fact, I might just take a little bit off the back side of that one, because I don't want my eye to see this one meet that one. You see what I mean? So there's just like little tricks to doing this. Yeah, I'll come back if I've got some more and I'll show you the progress. So when you are needing to use the blue tape, you'll want to address that as soon as possible, because if we're several rows in, it's harder to like put the tape down and get it tight. And so you'll want to like look it over on your first row and address it right then and there. And what else was I gonna say? So I started on my second full row again. And what I usually do is I'll have my cut pieces, or I'll cut the piece that goes there. And remember, when you start your first one again, you're gonna have to take off that back side that back lip. Let me see if I have. You have to take off that edge, but it's on the reverse side. And so I'll cut that one, and then I'll try to lay 2 rows before I cut this edge. That way I'm not taking all my tools back and forth every time I cut a row. Does that make sense? So see how I haven't finished this one, and I'm laying my second. I'll lay my second row to there, and then I'll cut those 2, and then I'll go back to this one. That way you're just not going back and forth with all your tools. This is what I was going to tell you, is that you'll want to double check your pattern, because I was just about ready to lay this whole row or this whole sheet, and it is almost identical to that one. Do you see that? See how we have the swirl here and the swirl there? So luckily I caught that, and that's why it's nice to have like at least 1 box open and a bunch laid out, or even if you get 2 boxes and open it up. But I like to lay them, I know it totally blends in, but I like to lay them on here just so that they don't get any debris. Like, I vacuumed all this, but there's still like a lot of dust. And so if you lay them on top of the floor that you've laid, then you're less likely to get the dust and debris on those glue sticky pieces. And if you do, I just use my utility knife and just try to scrape it off. And yeah, coming along now. Okay, so we've made some pretty good progress. I think it looks really good. There's a few areas that probably me just being picky can point them out, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with it. Like, as far as where the seams all end, I think it's not terrible. There's a few, like if you're to get really nitpicky, like maybe this one and that one are a little too tight, but for the most part, I'm happy with it. This has taken me more hours than I thought, but that's okay. We're still doing it. So I just wanted to show you, so I'm getting down to this end. This piece actually fit, and my walls must not be really straight, because I'm gonna have to cut this here to make this one fit. So what I did is I measured from this point to this point, and so then I put that measurement, so from there to there, I put that measurement there, and then I measured, make sure you don't get flaws on here. So then I measured from here to about right there, because we still want that gap, and I'm gonna have a baseboard here anyway. And so then I took that measurement and I went from here to here. And so then I'm gonna cut this piece out right there. And then that will then fit in there. Okay, so here you can see where I have the piece in there, and then I'll just continue on down. So now I've got this other side, and I was trying to think the easiest way to do it, and I think I've got it. So what I did is I just took I am a lot better with visualizing, so I just took a scrap piece. This one had, some issues with it, so anyway, I put some of this paper behind it so it wouldn't actually stick, and I laid it on here. And what I think I'm gonna do is just score it here, and then I'm gonna have to cut it that way. So that's gonna take a little bit of work, but it's not terrible. And then this whole piece is gonna be able to slide all the way down to that corner, and then I can continue out this way. But I just wanted to show you kind of what I did. So how I got this line was I just measured from that corner to right there and left a little bit because you want, you know, a little bit for expansion. And then I literally just drew this one, and you can measure it after you start your line, but I just drew this, and so then it'll fit right inside there. Okay, so that did work. Here's the chunk I took out, and so from the scrap piece that I originally drew on, I just transferred the markings onto a real piece. And it doesn't look pretty, and like my knife kind of slipped and I gouged it here, but it's still gonna fit well enough in there that it'll be covered by my baseboard. And so what I did was I scored it here, and then I scored it there, and then I just drove my knife like hard and just wiggled it so it showed through there, and then I pushed it all the way through on this side too, so you could see from the back, and then I flipped it over and scored it on the back, and then I just kind of broke this piece free. You just have to be careful that, you know, you don't do damage right here. You're gonna have to start over. And then I scored it on the back as well, and it took some finagling, but it worked, and I think it's gonna fit in there just fine. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. So again, I'm gonna leave a little bit of a gap there. Yeah, that's gonna fit. So see that? Sorry, it's gonna focus on my knee. Oh, sorry. So there we go. And then I can put a piece in here, and I'll probably have to do that same thing and see where it ends up on that side, but there you go.